Greetings, my scattered sisters and brothers in the Lord. Trust you know the Lord is with you wherever you find yourself scattered today, and that you know that His presence with you is more than enough for whatever you might face today. Well, today we come to our last story on Elisha, and it's found in 2 Kings chapter 13, and Elisha is actually already dead. So we read that Elisha died and was buried at verse 20. And he was probably buried in a cave or something very similar. So they didn't dig graves like we have today, but would have been in kind of a cave-like tomb. And so Elijah's dead and he's buried. Now, Moabite raiders used to enter the country every spring. Once, while some Israelites were burying a man, suddenly they saw a band of raiders. So they threw the man's body into Elisha's tomb. When the body touched Elisha's bones, the man came to life and stood up on his feet. And that's the last we read about Elisha. Now, I can just imagine that they see these raiders coming. They're trying to dig out kind of a cave and a tomb in the side of a hill or something. And they realize they got to get out of there. And so there's Elisha's grave. And so they open it and throw him into it and roll a stone away perhaps, and then they're out of there. But the dead man, comes to life because he touched Elisha's bones. Now, this is a crazy story, and what do we do with it? And that's all it says. It doesn't tell us what became of the man. It doesn't say that they started throwing other dead bodies on Elisha's bones to get them to come to life. It doesn't say that they went and took all of Elisha's bones and started selling them so that whoever had them would come to life. That's the story. That's all we have. And it highlights the power of Elisha, that even dead, he gives life. Well, let me rephrase that. It actually highlights the power of God working through Elisha. That contact with Elisha, even though his body is dead, contact with him, God's still at work through him to give life. And so I think that they probably tell this story, keep passing it forward, write it up, because maybe that's the message, that through contact with Elisha, God is still at work, even though Elisha is dead and gone, that through contact with him, God is still giving life. And when I think about it, I think that's true, that we have been spending time with the stories of Elijah and Elisha, hearing their stories, hearing their words, coming in contact with them. And I hope, I pray that we've discovered ourselves being made a little bit more alive by God through their stories, through their words. And maybe you've come from death to life, maybe not, but we can be alive and become even more alive. And I think for me, one of those stories, as I think back on it, is a story about the death in the pot, where one of the prophets had gone out and had some gourds from a wild vine and made stew with it, and it was deadly. And they came to Elisha, and what did Elisha tell them to do? To add flour to it. And as they add flour to that deadly stew, somehow the flour transformed it to where the stew was nourishing instead of deadly. Again, I just think about that story and how contact with Elisha, contact with his words, contact with his witness is like adding flour to all the wild stew, all the deadly stew that surrounds us, that we find ourselves eating. That when we mix in flour, what's deadly becomes alive. When we mix in Elisha and God's work through him and the lessons to be learned there, all of a sudden we have life. And so wherever you're scattered today, I would challenge you to kind of step back and reflect, how have the Elisha stories and Elijah stories impacted you? How has God worked through your contact with Elisha to give you a little bit more life? But that will be it for Elijah and Elisha, and you'll have to stay tuned, see where the Lord leads us next. God bless, have a great day, and reflect on Elisha. I'm sure that the Lord has made you a little bit more alive through touching him over these past several studies. God bless.